Hello and welcome back to CVP World, coming to you live from Warsaw. My name is Alex Simlinsky, and these are latest updates in the world news. And we begin this hour with U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, who says that President Trump has given the green light to a bipartisan bill regarding sanctions against Russia after the two met on Wednesday. Graham was seen traveling with the president earlier this week. The senior Republican said in a statement on X that while Ukraine is making concessions in the name of peace, Russia is continuing to kill innocent people. He said the bill will allow President Trump to punish countries that buy cheap Russian oil, which fuels Moscow's war machine. Graham said he thinks a bipartisan vote could take place as early as next week. Moving to Ukraine now, where the residents of the city of Dnipro and several other areas in the Dnipropetrovsk and Zaporizhzhia regions are left without power, heating, and oftentimes running water. That's after Russian strikes damaged critical infrastructure. According to Deputy Prime Minister Oleksiy Kuleba, both regions were left almost entirely without electricity, forcing hospitals and other critical sites to operate on reserve power. Kuleba added that repairs were being carried out in an intensified manner in Dnipropetrovsk, while in Zaporizhzhia, officials were drawing on alternative power sources to ensure water supply. Cold weather with temperatures dropping below minus 20 degrees Celsius is likely to slow down repair work. The U.S. has seized a Russian-flagged oil tanker that was being shadowed by a Russian submarine in the North Atlantic. After weeks of pursuing the ship as part of Washington's efforts to block Venezuelan oil exports, U.S. forces moved in on Wednesday, taking over the tanker, first registered in Panama, Guyana, and then Russia. Sonia Gatabishchan reports.
Washington and Moscow have found themselves in a standoff in the Atlantic. On Wednesday, the U.S. European Command announced the seizure of an oil tanker, with U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth adding,
"The blockade of sanctioned and illicit Venezuelan oil remains in full effect anywhere in the world."
The ship has undergone a significant transformation in recent days, changing its name from Bella 1 to Marinera, as well as the flag it was flying. Officially first registered under Panama, then flying a false Guyana flag, the tanker was seized under Russian colors. The vessel was last reported to be sailing empty, but international attention suggests there may be more to the story.
Probably the U.S. authorities, they do have their internal information about what actually the vessel is carrying. So we can talk either about weapons, we can talk about narcotics, we can talk about main stuff over here. Since actually they have spent a lot of time and effort in order to come on board on the vessel.
In December, Donald Trump ordered a blockade of sanctioned vessels to and from Venezuela. At the time, the U.S. Coast Guard attempted to board this oil tanker in the Caribbean when it was suspected of approaching Venezuela. But then the ship took a dramatic turn, ending up near Iceland on Tuesday.
Since the vessel officially was not loaded with any cargo, the only thing that we can imagine is that the vessel was carrying something that the Russians don't want to be presented.
And Marinero was not the only ship seized by the United States on Wednesday, as the U.S. Coast Guard also intercepted a Venezuelan supertanker M. Sofia in Caribbean waters. The developments take place after the U.S. captured Venezuela's former leader, Nicolas Maduro, on Saturday. Against this backdrop, comments made in 2019 by Fiona Hill, former advisor to Donald Trump, resurfaced, with the official implying that Russia was willing to withdraw its support for Maduro, letting U.S. act as it wished in Venezuela in exchange for a free hand in Ukraine. For TVP World, I'm Sonia Gatabishchan.
And U.S. President Donald Trump signed a memorandum on Wednesday to withdraw the U.S. from 66 international organizations, agencies, and commissions in yet another step to limit the country's involvement in international initiatives. The list of organizations includes bodies belonging to the United Nations system, as well as some dealing with combating hybrid threats and the non-proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. The memorandum is reportedly the result of a review ordered by Trump last year to determine whether U.S. membership in international organizations is in the country's interest. According to a statement by the State Department, the institutions were deemed redundant by the Trump administration. This would be a body blow to transatlantic solidarity, said Daniel Fried, former ambassador to Poland, speaking on TVP World's World News Tonight. Fried called it disgraceful that the United States is even considering the possibility of military action to seize Greenland.
It would be a body blow to transatlantic solidarity. It would mean that the United States was behaving as one of the aggressor nations that we used to oppose. Our old enemies from the 20th century behaved in an aggressive fashion. It is disgraceful to see the United States considering doing the same. So I don't like that at all. And I think that Europe is well advised to keep sending the signals to Trump that we cannot get away with anything like this cost-free.
And now to news from the Baltic states. 5,000 more young Lithuanians have been selected by a special lottery to enlist in the army and boost the country's defense capabilities. Lithuania reinstated military conscription in 2015 due to the threat from Belarus and Russia.
Lithuania kicked off its annual military draft today via a lottery system, with thousands of citizens called up for compulsory service. Defense Minister Robertas Kaunas activated the electronic selection system this morning under the watchful eyes of independent observers.
So we understand geopolitical reality, that the enemy is at the gates, and this is one of the chances. It is not only chances, constitutional duty, but this is that they have to serve their country, and maybe to do that earlier than later.
For those already in uniform, the mission is no longer just a theoretical exercise. Recruits from last year's cycle say the prospect of defending Lithuanian soil feels more urgent and real than ever.
I think every citizen should know how to arm themselves to defend their homeland in the time of need.
Lithuanians' return to the draft is a response to regional threats, as the country shares a border with both Russia and Belarus. After originally ending the draft in 2008, leaders reinstated it in 2015.
China has hacked the emails of U.S. Congress members serving on important committees. The attack, which took place in December, was part of a major espionage campaign codenamed Salt Typhoon. Hackers accessed emails of House of Representative members serving on the House China Committee, as well as aides on the Foreign Affairs Committee, Intelligence Committee, and the Armed Services Committee. China's Ministry for State Security has been operating Salt Typhoon for several years now. That's according to sources familiar with the matter. The campaign focuses on U.S. communications networks and allows Beijing to access the unencrypted phone calls, texts, and voicemails of almost every American, and in some cases enables access to email accounts. Calls of senior U.S. officials have also been intercepted in the past as part of Salt Typhoon. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance spoke on Wednesday about the ways the U.S. will benefit from Venezuelan oil. He also talked about the differences between Iraq and Venezuela.
First of all, what it means is we're going to be able to control the incredible natural resources of Venezuela, which is good for America in a few ways. Number one, it allows us to put leverage on our enemies. Number two, it makes sure that if Americans need high quality, low cost power, we're always going to have access to it. And then the third thing is it does demonstrate American military excellence, which makes people afraid to cross us in the future. Some of the best ways that you maintain the peace is to make it clear that you carry a very strong sword if you ever need to use it. So I think it's good for us in a lot of different ways. We also have to remember, Jesse, this is in our neighborhood. This is not Iraq. This is not 7,000 miles away. This is in our neighborhood. If we cannot follow the basic principle, which has been a cornerstone of American foreign policy for 200 years, that we control our neighborhood, a lot of bad people are going to take advantage of it. What the President of the United States said is, in our neighborhood, the United States calls the shots. That's the way it's always been. That's the way it is again under the President's leadership.
And staying on the topic of the South American country, Venezuela is open to energy relations where all parties benefit, says Delcy Rodriguez, who has been sworn in as Venezuela's acting president just days after Maduro's capture. Rodriguez stressed that the country's oil reserves must serve national development.
Venezuela is open to energy relations where all parties benefit, where economic cooperation is very well determined in commercial contracts. That is our position. Venezuela has one of the largest oil reserves on the planet and has the largest gas reserves. Those resources must be at the service of national development, and they must also be at the service of the development of other countries in the world. Our oil industry was born with an export vocation.
Humans are returning to the moon. According to NASA's schedule, the first manned mission to the lunar orbit in over 50 years is to launch on February 6th. The Artemis II is a 10-day mission which will take 4 astronauts around the moon and back to Earth. The crew includes 3 Americans and 1 Canadian. The astronauts have already completed a series of dress rehearsals at the NASA Kennedy Space Center in Florida, meant to prepare them for that mission. Artemis II is the first manned lunar mission since Apollo 17 left the moon's surface back in 1972. According to NASA, the restart of the lunar program has cost approximately $50 billion since 2006. Las Vegas has just become the new hotspot for retro gaming. CES, or Consumer Electronics Show, is attracting thousands of visitors to its nostalgia-themed show, where tech companies showcase vintage interpretations of modern games and some all-time classics.
It means different things to different people. Like for us, we have a ton of attention from both millennials as well as Gen Xers, but more of like a nostalgic interest. For younger generations like Gen Alpha or even Gen Z, I think for them they like them because they're fun. The more of like the toy-like factor.
Everything's old as new again. It's when you're playing pinball, you never have the same ball twice because the rubber's different or the flipper hits it different, and so it's just different every time you play. Pinball is definitely nostalgia because I've been around them ever since the electromechanical days, and now they're probably getting towards AI, but I don't think they're quite there yet.
For Pac-Man, it's based off of the original arcade version of Pac-Man, and so when people see it and they hear those sounds, it just instantly evokes a certain kind of emotion and gets them excited.
We have 2 demographics. One, we have the older demographic that grew up with vinyl, who've been sitting with a stack of black vinyl for years, not knowing what to do with it. And now that it's popular, they can #1 play it. But then more importantly, like the Gen Z, those who grew up in a digital world, never having something physical, they're actually actively buying vinyl just to feel connected to the artist. Every single person that walks by literally is just amazed. It just stops them in their tracks.
And now for some more lighthearted news. If you're a fan of Elvis and maybe never got a chance to see him perform live, fear not, as all you need to do is visit Parks Australia. The town is hosting its annual Elvis Presley busking competition.
You definitely, you do a lot under the shower, just practicing and having fun there. But you got to relate to people, and the songs have got beautiful words. And so when you see couples sitting together and young people walking past enjoying the rock and roll music, it's about tapping in, to the actual song itself. You sing it from the heart, and that just comes across. So I've been doing this for a long time, full time, but that's what I love to do.
I'd love to do this as a career because I have a musical family. My dad's a guitar player himself, and I've loved Elvis from a young age. So yeah, I see it as a career in the future.
I haven't been trying for anything like that. I've just been here, just enjoying myself. I'd like to think I got a chance. Everybody like to think they got a chance of winning, but yeah, I'm just here, in the enjoyment, the main.
And with that tune and report, it's a wrap for this edition of The World News. But don't go away, as there's much more coming up for you here this morning on TVP World.